Welcome to another episode of my Motor Town playthrough. Today we are going to try out the new police patrol system as well as the police Hydro. Took a long time for me to get the level to drive this thing, but I'm finally there and I'm a bit terrified because this thing has a reputation. So let's just jump right into it and go for the police patrol points. The way the system works is that it just has a few area circles on the map, and those circles are going to determine where the patrol points spawn. If we get all the patrol points in the area, we are going to get a bonus and all of that. And honestly, I don't want to go up into the snowy area with this car, so let's drive over to this location instead. I also turned on traction control for this video because, well, EVs have a lot of torque. That's just how they work, that's just how electric engines are. And in this game, that means that they are absolutely awful to drive without traction control because they are just going to constantly spin out on you. I can show you guys that in a moment, but we should probably wait until the rain has stopped. So let's just try and get going and visit one of the locations here and then just go from there. I've tried recording this a few times and only recently found out that having traction control active is the difference maker here. Though I don't understand why the brakes on this thing are so weak. Then again, this is a really heavy vehicle because of the batteries. Honestly, when it comes to the police cars right now, with the Hydro being the top dog, I think we really need a few more options here, especially for high-level police vehicles. It's just the car can't really go that far, which makes it an awful vehicle for patrolling, and without traction control it's just completely undrivable, so it's just not amazing. Wouldn't be all that bad if we could at least turn on traction control for individual vehicles, but the game really only has the main assist menu, and while you can do stuff with the drive modes, there is no explicit explanation on how the different assists work with each drive mode. I can show you guys that in a moment. So let me just collect this one here and... we got all of them. I don't want to go into the hills here. But when we go into the drive modes menu, there isn't really anything regarding the different assists and everything, and I think adding these options would be really nice. But yeah, as it is right now, no such luck. And I know for a fact, while traction control is mostly off in drift mode, if you look to the bottom right, at above the RPM meter, there should be a red symbol coming up every now and again. You just saw it there. That means that traction control, be it very minorly, is still on in this mode. So, yeah. Not really as pure as you would like it to be. Just without any assist and all of that in drift mode. And there doesn't really seem to be a way to change that. But yeah, overall, I kind of just wish we had another sporty top-end option for police cars with regular combustion engines. And maybe also a bit of a rework for how EVs work. Plus the option to just get traction control individually without applying it to everything. But yeah, for the police car here, I wouldn't have minded maybe having a downgraded engine, so that maybe we get a bit more reach because we are not applying that much power all the time, which is also just unnecessary power, so it's kind of a waste anyways. And maybe a longer final drive ratio to still lower the torque a bit more, since once again it's not really that useful. Maybe we'll get another patrol area in the city at some point when I can show you guys what it's like without traction control. Because for even these areas without traction control, it should be mostly fine. Always gonna make sure to not apply full throttle, but once you are at like 70, 80 kilometers per hour, you are usually good to go. It's not that aggressive anymore, but once you get into hairpins like this, it just constantly wants to spin out, even if you're only at half throttle. So this thing is barely usable in my opinion, at least for people who don't want to drive with traction control on most of their vehicles. And I mean, we have some really light vehicles that I can put the strong V8s or even the V12 in. That's all fine, but this thing stock is just completely awful and dangerous. And yeah, you may have noticed already I've been struggling with my voice recently. Basically, I got hay fever. I also got hay fever pills that I can take before going to sleep every night. But those are kind of knocking me out for the day after too, so I'm right now just trying to balance the intake. So it's gonna be not as great when it comes to fighting my symptoms, but at least I'm not just lying in a corner all day, because those things are basically tranquilizers. Could likely take on a horse, despite saying on the package that they are light on side effects and that kind of shit. They all say that, and they are all just completely knocking you out of your life. Should have maybe gone to the one at Santa's cabin first, but here we are. Let's just go back in confirm mode so that I don't need to throttle control all the time while still almost spinning out. But yeah, recently overall, that's been kind of a problem for me with my energy levels. I'm usually very exhausted, either from taking the pills and having the side effects, or from suffering from having the symptoms of my hay fever. So yeah, recording time recently has been a bit sparse. I just couldn't find a good time for me where I have the energy, where I'm not constantly coughing or sneezing or stuff like that. And yeah, that's also a big reason why there haven't been so many videos lately. Also, I've just been taking a bit of a break from the game in general. It's just an opportune time right now. Also, the next testing phase has started, so I'm involved with that, and going from the testing version back to the live version has been a bit more of a process recently, so yeah, it doesn't really work that well right now. And right now I'm just on a backup, which I'll likely not be taking back onto the testing version, meaning that whatever progress I have here will be lost once I go back to the testing version. I basically rolled back in order to participate in a racing event. Had to drop out of one of the rounds because, well, of my side effects from the sleeping pills. I mean the hay fever pills. You can decide for yourself which is the main effect of that stuff. So yeah, things have been a bit weird recently, and they're likely going to continue being weird. There's just a few things that I need to take care of, and that's just taking my energy. And yeah, that also gets us right next to the next topic, because one of the biggest videos that I can make on my channel is the update overview for the next update once that comes out. And currently I'm seriously reconsidering whether or not I want to make one of those for the next update. First off, my whole energy problems have been one big reason for the consideration. Also, with stuff like the last update being a large one with so many things to cover and so many things you need to get right and remember to put in there to begin with, it's kind of a chore, and the updates don't always come out on a day where I really feel like recording, but in order to get them out in a timely manner, I still try getting that stuff done. But yeah, it's not always ideal for me. Also, and this is another big thing right now, I'm deliberately taking a break from trucking in this game. I've simply grown bored of it. A lot of the stuff, once you get a heavy load on your trailer, once you just pull it away with any semi-truck, it feels the same a lot of the time, and it feels kind of boring for me right now, so I'm trying to not do it for a while. And with the next update introducing a stupid amount of trailers, currently there are 9 in testing, and there are supposed to be at least 2 more, so we might go up to 11. And I'm maybe taking a note of one of the trailers, the double-decker car hauler. But yeah, I can't really go and make a full overview with in-depth information if I'm not taking care of just interacting with all the update. So yeah, right now making a full video on that and maybe not even mentioning the trailers or just going there and glancing over them doesn't feel right for me. It's not really what I want to do, but I also am not going to force myself to do trucking right now if I really don't feel like it. I'm still happy doing racing and all of that, just even jumping into a car, driving around, maybe if it's not the Zydo or anything, but something that I enjoy, like actually like a lot of cars. I don't care if it's one of the slower compact cars. I even recently had a racing event with them being tuned with a 90 horsepower inline 4 engine, and that was amazingly fun. Or my usual Fortem, that kind of thing, more high-powered cars. They all feel very fun to drive. I'm even trying to work out a van racing event right now, which is, even with slow engines, also still a lot of fun. But yeah, those aspects I still highly enjoy. It's just other things that I want to stay away from, and it's sadly those things that have been the main focus of the majority of updates recently, and I just need something else from the game right now. Part of which is going to be provided by the next update. There are going to be some aspects being taken care of which we haven't seen any updates for in ages, and that's exciting. But yeah, overall there's still a lot of stuff that doesn't do it for me. And to be clear, while I know that I'm not alone with that opinion, at the end of the day that's really just my opinion and feeling on the matter. I don't want to talk down to anybody who enjoys the trucking. It's been one of the major draws for the game recently with how much they focus on it. But for people who see this more as a variety game, the variety has been lacking a bit. But yeah, in the end, for my own sake, I'm going to stay away from it for a while and get back into the trucking when I feel like it. But that still doesn't really help me with what I want to do for the next update. But there's definitely going to be videos like this one where I just go out for checking out one singular new thing of the update and just testing that out, trying out a few things and experiencing the whole thing for what it's worth. You know what, while we are here and the car is almost empty, almost out of charge, let's just jump into a different car. And I'm not going to go into another Zydo, I don't care for that too much. But I have a few other options here. I mean, I could go for the bike. Let's use the bike. I think that's one of the better options right now. So yeah, I'll have to figure out what I want to do with the update and if I want to make a video on it. But it also wouldn't feel right to just focus on the things that I actually want to play with and just ignore everything else. I think videos like that have to be on the whole thing, and I don't know if I have that in me right now. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions on that matter. I'm curious, but I cannot promise that I'll be changing anything regarding that stuff. It just kind of depends on when the update comes out, how it works out, and that kind of thing. But there with so many trailers being added, and to be clear, 8 of those 9 trailers right now. I already talked a bit about the double-decker trailer, which I am looking into because that's a whole new exciting thing. 4 of those other trailers are tankers and the other 4 are flatbeds. The 2 missing right now are container trailers. And to be clear, container trailers be double trailers, meaning that there's going to be a front and a rear version. And that's also how some of the other stuff shakes down. So for both the flatbeds and tanker trailers, we have the B-double front trailer with the triple axle and then the 5th wheel on the rear part. And then a rear version of that same thing, and then completely separate from that we have 10 meter and 7 meter short trailers. And some of it really feels redundant. Especially since the rear trailers of everything work pretty well on their own. So they basically slot in very well with the 10 and 7 meter length versions. But yeah, right now I can't really make any recommendations on that kind of stuff and all that, and I don't know. I think I should at least look into the stuff far enough to tell you guys which things you need for the highest capacity, which might be a good low capacity option if you're looking for that kind of deal, but there are so many possible combinations that it's just, yeah, much more time than I would be willing to spend for the whole thing right now. Okay, another topic I want to talk about, and I think we have just enough time for it. It's something that came up on the Discord quite often, and I just wanted to mention it in a video because I think it's worth talking about this stuff. Alternative forms of transportation in Motortown. Some things have been on the Trello for a while, and a lot of it gets mentioned quite frequently. Okay, it's going back into the town. I thought it would get me back up onto the mountain again. Also definitely going to be taking this one first. So things like boats, planes, trains, helicopters, ferries, the whole 9 yards. Some of it is already on the Trello because it's been considered, but honestly, I think a lot of these things wouldn't make too much sense in the game right now because I believe they kinda need some consideration in the planning phase of the game before you lay out your maps and everything. So let me go through every single one of them and let me tell you guys what I think about them in detail and how that argument shakes down for every single one of them. Let's start with boats. I think a map designed for regular vehicle transportation on roads and everything, and for boats would be having a map that looks a bit different from what we have right now. The current map is really just a big landmass up on the north, a slightly smaller landmass in between the other 2 big ones, and of course just the massive one down south. I think for a good well-fitting map for boats, this would need to be a bit different. We would need more smaller islands, maybe some things out more remotely, and also some rivers that don't have too much of a grade and just allow you to really go deep inland. Just for there to be a lot more variety. Maybe a few canals and that kind of thing. Think basically Gran Turismo, not Gran Turismo, Grand Theft Auto 5. That does a lot of things right for the map design in order for boats to make sense. And with this map, you would basically be mostly going around the big islands, and besides the amount of work required in order to add decent water physics to make that somewhat interesting, I think just with how... fucking hell. With how the overall island and map design shakes out, this isn't really the best fit. Could still be made to work, but maybe more in a sense if we get something like a fishing boat to go out to sea, get some fish and go back to the same harbor we came from, that could work. But going between places right now, I think there are just not enough routes, and there's not enough to see. Would basically just be running the boat around cliff sides, and that's just it. So that would get boring very quickly in my opinion. Ferries are another thing which people have been suggesting in the same vein, and even just going between the main ports of Jeju up north and Dasa over here. Ara is supposed to be harbor town, so there's definitely going to be something over here as well. I mean, just look at the routing over here. Maybe if we had another port somewhere down here at Baiyang and then going over to maybe this place over here. This might be probably a decent route for that, but other than that, you would be spending like half an hour sitting around and waiting for the boat to get to your place, and I don't think that's really good to any degree. So yeah, boats in my opinion, not an amazing solution, or not an amazing addition for this map. If they want to introduce it for maybe a sequel, they should really go and think about it when that whole thing is getting conceptualized. So let's go on to planes now. Planes at least, well, they can fly over land, so that's kind of okay. But they also need some airports. The only real airport right now is at Jeju. I mean, technically there's also the military base, even though there's a plane on that permanently parked and all that kind of thing, and you wouldn't necessarily go with any of your planes to a military base landing strip unless specifically ordered to do so. Unless you wanna get shot down or something. But yeah, I think in order for that to make sense, you would need a lot of airports. Even if you just get one at Ara, you would be going back and forth between Ara and Jeju. That's one route, maybe two if you consider the different directions. But then all for that to make more sense, you would need quite a few. And honestly, right now, even for Jeju airport, that thing is a caricature. Basically, that thing is only large enough for the stunt plane that's just starting and landing all the time, but if you want to do something with cargo transportation, with a real cargo plane, that place is nowhere near large enough. That would need a complete redesign, and it might be larger than... I mean, definitely at least about as large as the entire harbor over here, maybe even the harbor and the town, which should be very disproportionate to everything else going around over here. Helicopters on the other way, I could see that happening, since they can basically land wherever. You can add a few helipads on different buildings, maybe make a way down, maybe make ladders usable for that kind of thing. Or just teleport down if you have a building that you don't really want to have an interior for. That could work out. But yeah, I think that's the only thing I could really see being added. Of course, there's also trains. I didn't forget about them, but let's be clear. I played a lot of Railroads Online a while ago, don't play it anymore, the game seems to be pretty dead, despite whatever the devs or the moderators are saying. I don't want to get into that, but let's talk about trains themselves. They need specific terrain for their tracks and everything. Can't be too steep on the incline, and also usually needs a wide corner radius in order for the train to be able to take that bend and even keep a bit of speed. So yeah, I think with Jeju Island the main problem would be the corner radius. I mean, you can definitely fit a loop on here, that's not a problem, but you would need to make a lot of compromises with where you put your track, because you can't just sneak in between the other things that are going on here. There would need to be a lot of reconsideration, a lot of bridges. It might look really ugly, and especially with this end. I mean, you got the airport over here, you got the town here, and this is where the mountainside starts. Where would you put the track, and where would you put the train station? OG Island, completely different problem. You definitely have enough terrain to make wide corner radius work, but the grades would be awful. And I don't think they are going to rework the entire island in order for that to work. I mean, at that point, if they make a nice track layout, you would likely have a lot of people just using that instead of the roads, because that would be more straightforward. And this is all just talking about tracks in terms of using trains as a background thing. Like, mostly non-interactable, maybe you could get onto the train and walk around the cars, but you wouldn't be a train conductor or anything. You wouldn't be running the train. And even as that, similar to GTA 5, I think it would be it would be too much of a map rework for that to work at all. And if you want to make trains usable, like another career path in this game, you can't just add a loop. You need a full-on train and railways network. And for that to happen, once again, you need a sequel that completely has that in mind before even getting started. So in my opinion, as much as I think some of these things could be fun, if they are done right, I don't think there's really a path for doing most of them correctly with the game as it is right now. But yeah, that's just my opinion on the matter. I just wanted to talk about it since it's been brought up even more frequently recently, and I mean, my videos aren't going to change anything about that, but I just wanted to express my opinion on the matter. So yeah, so much about that. Let's finish up here and let's end the episode. I think going with bike ride here it's definitely been a good choice. This thing is decently fun, and you can also drive it without traction control on it and all of that. But yeah, when it comes to future content in terms of Motortown, I still have a few events that I need to make some voiceover for. Again, still having the same issues as with everything else recently, so that didn't happen so far, but I still have that on my mind. And that might be most of what you are seeing from my end until we get to the next update. And how it's gonna go from there, I don't fully know. I had a few things in mind for some other series that I would like to start, some non-Motortown stuff, to get a bit more variety going on the channel again, but yeah. With everything else that has been going on, it's just all been on the back burner. So I'll have to see how it goes. But yeah, so far I'm still working on some other things, trying to get some stuff figured out, and until that's done, I mean, No guarantees that I'll be having more energy for recording after that, but right now there are a lot of things on my mind and I'll have to sort some of it out. So we'll have to see how anything goes here. Also, there might be one thing that I won't be making any video on, and that is the second set of my latest Formula FCM event, or Formula SCM, I'm sorry. I'm always calling it the FSCM for short, and I'm just mixing up both of those things. Where the hell is... Up north again, of course. The thing is, I took one of my tranquilizer pills recently, one of my anti-hay fever things, and they just put me to sleep. And while I was awake for the event, the second round basically, I was just fighting off my tiredness all the time and had to drop out in the end. It just didn't work out. I started the last race, which I found to be really exciting. It's on basically the game's version of the Green Hell, meaning my one track that goes around the entirety of Chijo Island over here. And I made it around maybe 1/3, and somewhere over here I had to drop out because I just couldn't stay awake enough to keep the car going straight. So I might not make any videos on that particular run, but there's still the early session which went a bit better, so I can at least show you guys one of those things. But yeah, events seem to have gotten a bit more of a resurgence recently, which is nice, so seeing a few more people pop in and participate is always appreciated. Jesus Christ. It's just the same corner which I just wedged myself in between the crash barrier and the ground before. Might be the same one. Treacherous, deceiving little corner there. Especially for bikes. But yeah, I'll be trying to keep up the events, keep that stuff going, but that's also just taking a bit of energy. I'm trying to find good times to get all of it organized. Right now I feel like if I'm going at the same pace as before, I might run into problems where I'm just going to repeat a few things, which might not even be all that bad. We have a few really good concepts for events, but I don't want to just overdo them. But I'll have to see where it ends. But stuff like Formula SCM, the cap over racing, the slow sports, or the slow, first up retro sports cars with inline 4 engines and the slow shitboxes, those are going to be reoccurring themes. Likely also the Stellar Cup, even though I recently gotten a bit tired of how the car brakes. Because it's just constantly burning out the front tires while not really applying any braking force with the rear, and it's not great when you have any harsh braking zones. But we'll have to see how anything goes here. Anyways, I just bring back the bike to the police station and then we'll end the episode right there. And here we go. So with that all being said, thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, which is likely going to be some racing commentary, have a good one, and bye bye.